My name is Tressa Carroll. I'm 28 years old. And the night my world shattered started with one sentence. My dad kicked me out at 18. You'll be back begging within weeks. My father threw my suitcase onto the driveway and locked the door behind me. I walked away. I never looked back. But 10 years later, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. 47 missed calls in 5 days. All from him. He was the one begging me to answer. Back then, I was just a girl with blisters on my feet and fire in my chest. I'd just been accepted into a prestigious dance conservatory across the state, the kind of place people like me only ever dream about in late-night rehearsals. If you want to see how a girl with nothing but blisters and fire turned rejection into something they couldn't ignore, hit that subscribe button. Because this story is just getting started. I still remember the sound of paper tearing. It's funny how certain sounds stay with you forever. The rip was clean at first, then jagged. My father held my acceptance letter in both hands and tore it straight down the middle. Then again. And again. Until the words prestigious and full scholarship were nothing but confetti on our kitchen floor. This isn't real, Tressa. My mother stood behind him with her arms crossed. You're not throwing your life away for dancing. She said, dancing the way other people say drugs or prison. Like it was something shameful. Something that would kill me. I'd been dancing since I was 5 years old. 13 years of bloody toes and pulled muscles and waking up at dawn to practice before school. 13 years of my parents rolling their eyes every time I came home late from rehearsal. But I thought, stupidly, that this letter would change everything. That when they saw the words merit-based scholarship and internationally recognized program, they'd finally understand. Your cousin Jennifer just got into Harvard Medical School, my father said. He wasn't even looking at me anymore. He was looking at the pieces of my future scattered across the tile. And you want to waste your life twirling around in tights. It's not twirling. My voice cracked. I hated how small I sounded. It's choreography. It's storytelling. It's unemployment. My mother cut me off. She picked up a brochure from the counter. The same brochure I'd shown them 3 weeks ago when I first applied. We looked into accounting programs for you. And finance. Real careers, Tressa. With real salaries. I don't want to be an accountant. The words came out sharper than I meant them to. I don't want to spend my life in a cubicle staring at spreadsheets. I want to dance. I want to create. You want to be selfish. My father finally looked at me. His face was red, the way it always got when he was about to explode. Do you know how much we've sacrificed for you? The money we've spent? And this is how you repay us? By choosing some fantasy over your future? Dance is my future. I could feel tears burning behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. This is what I'm good at. This is what I love. Then you can love it somewhere else. He grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the stairs. My mother didn't move. She just stood there watching as he dragged me up to my room. You have until tomorrow morning to come to your senses. Either you withdraw that ridiculous application and apply to business school like we discussed, or you're out of this house. I packed my bags that night. Every drawer, every closet. I folded my life into 2 suitcases and a duffel bag while my parents slept down the hall. And when morning came, I was ready. My friend Ashley didn't ask questions when I showed up at her apartment with 3 bags and nowhere else to go. She just moved her textbooks off the couch and handed me a blanket. You can stay as long as you need. But her eyes said what her mouth didn't. I hope it's not too long. I got a job at Romano's Italian kitchen 2 days later. Night shift, Thursday through Sunday. The kind of place where the kitchen smells like burnt garlic and the manager doesn't care if you have a work permit as long as you show up on time. I'd finish my shift at 2 in the morning smelling like marinara sauce and other people's half-eaten dinners. Then I'd come back to Ashley's couch and lie awake until dawn, too wired to sleep, too exhausted to move. The dance conservatory started 3 weeks after I left home. I showed up to orientation with everything I owned still packed in garbage bags in Ashley's closet. The other students talked about their summer trips to Europe and their private instructors and their parents who were so proud. I smiled and nodded and said nothing about the fact that I'd served their parents pasta the night before. But something shifted in me during those first classes. All that rage I'd been swallowing, all that humiliation and anger and grief, it had to go somewhere. And I put it into my dancing. Every grand jeté was a door slamming in my face. Every pirouette was the sound of paper tearing. Every extension was me reaching for something they said I'd never have. My instructor noticed. Professor Chin pulled me aside after a contemporary class in my second month. Your technique is flawless, Tressa. But your emotion is raw, almost violent. She wasn't criticizing. She was fascinated. What are you angry about? Everything I wanted to say. Instead, I just shrugged. She assigned me a solo piece for the winter showcase. Create something autobiographical, she said. Something that scares you.
So I did.
I choreographed 7 minutes of pure fury. 7 minutes of abandonment and survival and the kind of pain that makes you want to burn the world down just to feel warm. I called it conditional. I practiced in empty studios after everyone else went home. I practiced in Ashley's living room while she studied for her nursing exams. I practiced during my breaks at Romano's, running through counts in my head while I refilled water glasses and smiled at customers who didn't see me. And slowly, painfully, the piece started to take shape. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't graceful. It was angry and desperate and honest in a way that made my chest hurt. But it was mine. Every movement was a word I couldn't say out loud. Every sequence was a scream I'd been holding in since the night my father threw my suitcase onto the driveway.
This was my language now.
And I was finally learning how to speak. The financial aid office called me in during my 3rd week of classes. I thought it was routine. Maybe they needed a signature or wanted to congratulate me on the scholarship. Instead, the woman behind the desk looked at me with something close to pity. We're missing your parents' tax documents. She slid a form across the desk. We've sent 3 requests. They haven't responded. Without those documents, we can't process your aid package for next semester. My stomach dropped. Can't I just prove I'm independent? She shook her head. Not at 18. Federal law requires parental information until you're 24, married, or have a dependent. Unless you can prove exceptional circumstances.
I'm homeless.
The words tasted bitter. I sleep on my friend's couch. I work nights to pay for food. Isn't that exceptional enough? Do you have documentation? Court papers? Police reports? Something official that proves you've been abandoned? I didn't. Because my parents hadn't abandoned me in any legal sense. They'd just given me an ultimatum, and I'd chosen wrong. I called them that night from the payphone outside Romano's. My mother answered on the 3rd ring. We got the letters from your school. Her voice was cold, impersonal, like she was talking to a telemarketer. I need those documents. I try to keep my voice steady. Please. I can't stay enrolled without them. Then I guess you'll have to come home. I could hear the satisfaction in her tone. We told you this would happen, Tressa. We told you that you couldn't do this alone. I'm not coming back. My hand tightened around the receiver. I just need you to send the forms. That's all. And why would we do that? My father's voice cut in. He'd picked up the extension. So you can keep embarrassing us? So you can keep wasting your life? It's not a waste. I was begging now and I hated myself for it. Please. I'm doing well. I'm top of my contemporary class. Professor Chin says I have real potential. Potential doesn't pay bills.
His voice was flat.
Final. You want our tax documents? Come home. Enroll in business school. Act like an adult. Otherwise, you're on your own. The line went dead. I spent the next 2 weeks trying everything. I filed for independent status and was denied. I met with the financial aid counselor, who gave me a list of private loans with interest rates that made my head spin. I picked up extra shifts at Romano's until I was working 6 nights a week, coming home at 3 in the morning with my feet bleeding through my shoes. Ashley found me crying in her bathroom one night after a particularly brutal shift. I can't do this, I told her. I can't pay tuition and rent and food and everything else. Not without help. She sat down next to me on the tile floor. So prove them wrong. Make them regret it. And that's exactly what I decided to do. Before we continue, I want to say something. If this story is hitting home, if you've ever had to prove someone wrong about you, drop a comment below and subscribe. This channel is for people who refuse to break. You're part of this story too. I found out about the rumors from the last person I expected. Mrs. Chun from down the street, my parents' neighbor for 15 years, saw me at the grocery store near campus. I was in my Romano's uniform, grabbing instant ramen and energy drinks before my shift. She almost walked past me. Then she stopped. Tressa? Her voice was careful, cautious. How are you doing, sweetheart? I'm good. The lie came easily now. Really good, actually. School is amazing. She looked at me for a long moment, the kind of look that made my skin crawl. Your father said you were struggling, that you'd had some kind of breakdown.
What?
The word came out sharper than I meant it to. She glanced around like she was sharing a secret. He told everyone at the Rotary Club meeting last month. Said you dropped out of a practical degree program and run off to join some dance cult. That you weren't stable enough to handle real responsibility. She touched my arm. I just wanted to check on you. Make sure you were okay. I'm not in a cult. My face was burning. And I didn't drop out. I was never in business school. I got accepted to a conservatory. A real school with real classes and real professors. But she was already backing away, that pitying look still plastered on her face. If you need anything, honey. If you need help, you know where we are. I didn't go to work that night. I sat in Ashley's apartment and called everyone I could think of. My high school dance teacher. My former youth group leader. Even my mom's sister, Aunt Linda, who I hadn't spoken to in months. The story was everywhere. My father had turned my life into a cautionary tale. He's telling people I'm mentally ill, I told Ashley. That I threw my life away. That I'm unstable. Ashley looked up from her laptop. She'd been researching something while I spiraled. Does your dad work at Carroll and Associates? The accounting firm downtown?
Yeah. Why?
She turned her screen toward me. Because he just got promoted to senior partner. There was a photo from their company website. My father in a suit, shaking hands with someone important. The caption talked about his dedication to family values and fiscal responsibility. Family values. I wanted to laugh. Or scream. I couldn't decide which. The man who kicked his daughter out is lecturing people about family values. He's protecting his image. Ashley's voice was flat. You're a threat to his perfect life narrative. The successful businessman with the perfect family. If people knew the truth, if they knew he threw you out for choosing art over accounting, what would that say about him? So, he's rewriting history. Making me the villain. Making you the cautionary tale. She closed her laptop. But here's the thing, Tressa. Cautionary tales only work if the person actually fails.
And you're not failing.
Not yet, I said. But I'm barely surviving. Then survive louder. Make so much noise they can't ignore you. Win so big they can't rewrite it. She showed up during my rehearsal for conditional. I was in the middle of the most brutal sequence, the part where I collapsed to the floor and dragged myself forward like I was crawling through glass. Professor Chun was watching from the corner, taking notes. The studio was supposed to be locked. Only conservatory students and faculty were allowed in. But my mother had always been good at talking her way into places she didn't belong. Tressa. Her voice cut through the music.
Stop this. Right now.
I froze mid-movement. For a second, I thought I was hallucinating. Stress and sleep deprivation finally catching up to me.
But no.
She was really there, standing in the doorway in her pristine business suit, looking at me like I was something dirty she'd stepped in. Professor Chen paused the music. Can I help you? I'm her mother. She didn't even look at Professor Chen. She kept her eyes locked on me. I need to speak with my daughter. Privately. We're in the middle of rehearsal. I didn't move from the floor. Whatever you need to say can wait. No, it can't. She walked into the studio, her heels clicking against the hardwood. Your father and I have been patient. We've given you space to get this nonsense out of your system. But now you're making us look like monsters. You are monsters. The words came out before I could stop them. Professor Chen stood up. I think you should leave. My mother ignored her. Do you know what people are saying? She was talking faster now, her voice rising. Your little performance piece, the one you're working on right now, people are talking about it. They're saying it's about us. That you're publicly humiliating your family because we tried to give you guidance. Guidance? I pushed myself to my feet. You kicked me out. You refused to help me with financial aid. Dad is telling everyone I'm mentally unstable. Because you're acting unstable. She gestured at the studio, at me in my rehearsal clothes, sweaty and exhausted. Look at yourself, Tressa. You're living on a couch, working at a restaurant, spending every free moment in this studio dancing out your anger, like some kind of therapy session. This isn't healthy. This isn't normal. This is art. My voice was shaking now. This is me telling the truth. Your truth is hurting real people. Her mask was slipping. I could see the desperation underneath. Your father has worked his entire life to build his reputation. And you're destroying it with your selfish little revenge fantasy. Professor Chen stepped between us. You need to leave.
Now.
Before I call security.
My mother looked at me one more time.
Her eyes were cold.
Hard.
This is your last chance, Tressa. Stop this performance. Withdraw from this school. Come home, and we'll forget this ever happened.
No.
Then you're not my daughter anymore. She turned and walked out, her heels echoing down the hallway until the sound finally faded into nothing. I stood there shaking, my whole body vibrating with adrenaline and rage, and something that felt dangerously close to grief. Professor Chen touched my shoulder. You okay? I nodded. Can we run it again? From the top? She smiled. From the top. The National Emerging Choreographers Competition was the kind of opportunity that could change everything. First place came with $25,000, a feature in Dance Magazine, and workshops with companies across the country. Professor Chen nominated me without asking. You're ready for this. She handed me the application packet. And conditional is exactly what they're looking for. Something raw. Something that makes people uncomfortable. I stared at the forms. This goes nationwide. If I submit this, if it gets selected, everyone will see it. That's the point. Her expression was serious. Art isn't meant to be safe, Tressa. It's meant to be true. And your piece is the truest thing I've seen in 20 years of teaching. So, I submitted it. I wrote the artist statement at 3 a.m. after a double shift at Romano's, my hands shaking from exhaustion and too much coffee. I described conditional as an exploration of conditional love and familial abandonment. I didn't mention my parents by name. I didn't have to. The movement spoke for itself. They selected me as a finalist 6 weeks later, one of 12 choreographers from across the country. The performance would be live-streamed and judged by a panel that included former principal dancers, artistic directors, and critics who could make or break careers with a single review. I had 2 months to perfect 7 minutes that would either validate everything I'd sacrificed or prove my parents right. I stopped sleeping. I ran the piece so many times I could do it in my sleep, which was good, because that's basically what I was doing. Ashley would find me sleepwalking through counts in the kitchen at 4 a.m. Romano's cut my hours because I kept mixing up orders, my brain stuck in 8 counts and transitions. Professor Chen made me take 3 days off a week before the competition. You're going to dance yourself into an injury. Rest is part of the work. But rest meant thinking. And thinking meant remembering. My father's face when he tore up my acceptance letter. My mother's voice when she said I wasn't her daughter anymore. The pitying looks from people who believed their lies. the weight of proving them wrong pressing down on my chest until I couldn't breathe. The night before I left for the competition, Ashley sat me down. Whatever happens tomorrow, you've already won. You know that, right? I don't feel like I've won. I felt like I was drowning. Like I'd been drowning for months, and this competition was either going to pull me to shore or push me under for good. You survived. She grabbed my hands. They threw you out with nothing and you survived.
You're still dancing.
You're still creating. That's winning, Tressa. Everything else is just proof. The competition was in Chicago. I flew there on a red-eye with my costume in a garment bag and my entire future packed into 7 minutes of choreography. When I stepped onto that stage, when the lights came up and the music started, I wasn't thinking about winning anymore. I was thinking about telling the truth. Finally, loudly, where no one could ignore it. My father called while I was backstage waiting for my slot. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Maybe curiosity. Maybe the desperate hope that he was calling to say he was proud of me. "I'm at O'Hare." His voice was clipped. Professional. Like he was closing a business deal. "I'll be at your hotel in 20 minutes. We need to talk. I'm about to perform." My hands were shaking. "I can't leave. Then I'll come to you." "Where are you?" He showed up 15 minutes later. I watched through the stage door as he talked his way past security, flashing his business card and that practice smile he used on clients. By the time he found me in the wings, I had 10 minutes before my performance. "This ends now, Tressa." He didn't waste time on pleasantries. "I've seen the promotional materials. I know what your piece is about. I know what you're trying to do." "I'm not trying to do anything." I kept stretching, refusing to look at him.
I'm dancing.
"That's all. Don't insult my intelligence." He moved closer, lowering his voice. "You're about to humiliate your family on a national stage. To thousands of people. All because you're angry that we tried to give you realistic expectations. You kicked me out." I finally looked up at him. "You tore up my acceptance letter. You refused to give me the documents I needed for financial aid. You told everyone I was mentally unstable. And you call that realistic expectations? We were trying to protect you." His jaw was tight. "The dance world is brutal, Tressa. Unstable. We didn't want to watch you destroy your future chasing a fantasy."
So you destroyed it for me instead.
He pulled out his checkbook. "That's what I'm here to fix." He started writing, his pen scratching across the paper. "I'll pay your full tuition. All 4 years. Plus living expenses. A reasonable apartment, not some couch." He tore the check out and held it up. $200,000. "All you have to do is withdraw from this competition and transfer to a business program next semester." I stared at the check. More money than I'd ever seen in my life. Enough to stop working nights at Romano's. Enough to sleep in an actual bed. Enough to stop drowning. And all I have to do is give up dancing. Give up myself. Give up the truth. Not give up. He was using his reasonable voice now. The one he used with difficult clients. Redirect. Channel your energy into something sustainable. You can still dance as a hobby. Take classes on weekends. But build a real foundation first.
No.
Tressa, be smart about this. "I am being smart." I stood up, facing him fully. "You're offering me money to be quiet. To pretend you didn't abandon me. To let you rewrite history so you look like the good guy. But I'm not for sale. You're making a mistake." His voice hardened. "A mistake you'll regret." "Maybe." I walked toward the stage entrance. "But at least it'll be my mistake. Not yours. Tressa." He called after me. But I was already gone. I had a performance to give. And this time I was dancing for free. I don't remember walking onto that stage. One moment I was in the wings, still shaking from my father's ultimatum. The next, I was center stage under the lights, the opening notes of my music filling the theater. Then everything else disappeared. 7 minutes. That's all it took to tell the story of my life. Every failed pirouette was a door slamming. Every fall was rejection. Every time I pulled myself up from the floor, it was survival. The final sequence, where I reached toward empty space over and over again, was every time I'd wanted my parents to be proud of me and found nothing there. When the music stopped, I collapsed. My chest heaving. My muscles screaming. For 3 seconds, there was only silence. Then the audience erupted. I'd never heard applause like that. It wasn't polite appreciation. It was visceral. People were standing. Some were crying. Professor Chen was in the 3rd row with tears streaming down her face. And somewhere in the back, I knew my father was watching everything he'd tried to bury come to life. The judges deliberated for 2 hours. I sat backstage with the other finalists, all of us stripped down to our raw nerves. When they finally called us back, the head judge, Maria Santos, a former principal with New York City Ballet, stood at the microphone. This year's winner created something that reminded us why we dance. Not for perfection, not for beauty, but for truth. She paused. First place goes to Tressa Carroll for conditional. The rest of that night was a blur. Interviews. Photos. Other choreographers congratulating me. Someone from Dance Magazine asking about my inspiration. I told them everything. The acceptance letter. The ultimatum. The couch surfing and night shifts and parents who chose their reputation over their daughter. I didn't use their names. But I didn't have to. The video went live 3 days later. Within a week, it had 500,000 views. Within 2 weeks, 2 million. People shared it with captions like "This is what conditional love looks like" and "Powerful piece on family trauma." Dance companies reached out. Scholarships materialized. Suddenly, I had more opportunities than I knew what to do with. And my father's world started crumbling. Ashley showed me the Facebook posts first. Parents from my old neighborhood, people who'd known me since I was 5. They were connecting the dots. "Isn't this Ronald Carroll's daughter? The one he said dropped out?" Mrs. Patterson's comment had 63 likes. "This doesn't sound like a breakdown. This sounds like a girl who was abandoned." Then came the business fallout. 3 of my father's biggest clients quietly moved to other firms. The Rotary Club removed him from the planning committee. Someone leaked that he'd been telling people I was mentally unstable, and now everyone knew it was a lie. Professor Chen called me into her office 2 weeks after the competition. "You're being offered a full scholarship. Not just tuition. Full ride. Stipend included." She smiled. "You don't have to sleep on couches anymore, Tressa. You don't have to work nights. You can just dance." I cried in her office for 20 minutes. Not sad tears. Not happy tears. Just release. Like I'd been holding my breath for a year and could finally exhale. But the story doesn't end here. 10 years later, the phone rings. And everything comes full circle. If you need to see how this ends, make sure you're subscribed. Because what happens next will give you chills. 10 years is a long time to not speak to your parents. Long enough to graduate. To join a company. To become the kind of choreographer whose name people recognize. Long enough to stop flinching every time you see their area code on your phone. The calls started 6 months ago. First my mother. Then my father. Then both of them, multiple times a day. I let every single one go to voicemail. I didn't know them my voice.
I didn't know them anything.
But 47 calls in 5 days felt different. Desperate. So, I finally listened to the voicemail my father left at 2 in the morning. "Tressa." His voice was broken. Unrecognizable.
"Please.
I know I don't deserve this. I know what I did. But your mother is sick. Stage 4. And we lost everything. The business, the house, all of it. I'm begging you. Please just call me back." I sat in my apartment, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city, and listened to that message 3 times. Part of me felt vindicated. They were finally experiencing the consequences of their choices. But another part, the part one tried to ignore, just felt tired. Ashley, now a nurse practitioner with her own practice, came over that night. "What are you going to do?" I don't know. I stared at my phone. They destroyed me. They told everyone I was crazy. They gave me an ultimatum and then acted shocked when I chose myself. And you survived anyway. She sat next to me. You built something beautiful out of all that pain. So the question isn't what they deserve. It's what you need. I called him back the next day. He answered on the first ring. Tressa.
He was crying.
Thank you. Thank you for calling back. I know I don't deserve. Stop. My voice was calm. Clinical. I'll help with Mom's medical bills. I'm setting up a payment system through a foundation. You'll never see my name on the checks. You'll never have to acknowledge where the money comes from.
I'll take it.
Any way you want to do it. Can I see you? Can we talk about?
No.
I cut him off. This is a financial transaction, not a reconciliation. You don't get to rewrite history just because you're scared now. You don't get to pretend the last 10 years didn't happen.
I'm sorry.
His voice broke. I'm so sorry, Tressa. We were wrong. We were so wrong about everything. I know you are. And maybe that's enough for you. But it's not enough for me. I took a breath. I'm not doing this because I forgive you. I'm doing this because I'm not you. Because I can help and you couldn't. Because I choose compassion even when it wasn't chosen for me. Can I tell you I'm proud of you?
He was sobbing now.
Can I at least say that? You can say it. I looked out my window at the city lights. But it doesn't change anything.
Goodbye, Dad.
I hung up. And for the first time in 10 years, I felt something close to peace. Not because I'd forgiven them, but because I'd finally, completely let them go.